Welcome.
Hi.
So today, this is one of my favorite topics of this year's Digital CX Summit. It's inclusive by design, enhancing digital CX through purposeful and diverse marketing. As organizations, we talk a lot about personalization, relevance, and customer experience. But today's discussion pushes us to go deeper. It challenges us to think about intentional inclusion, designing experiences that are not only innovative, engaging, but also equitable, representative, and human. And joining me for this conversation is someone who truly embodies this philosophy, Sasha Chumber. She's Global Head of Paid Digital Media at Interpret Travel. Sasha leads global campaigns that connect with audiences across cultures and continents, helping make travel not just accessible, but meaningful. Her work blends creativity, storytelling, and data to create experiences that are authentic, inclusive, and inspiring. Sasha, it's such a pleasure to meet you today.
Thanks, Sarah. That was a very nice introduction. I'm blushing a little bit.
I love it. All right, Sasha, you ready? We're going to jump right into this. Okay, so Sasha, the phrase inclusive by design is powerful. When you think about it in context of digital customer experience, what does it really mean to you and your team at Interpret?
Yeah, that's a great question. When it comes to inclusive by design, it basically means for us making sure that we're accessible to everybody, accessible in our experience and our journey for our customers, making sure that we're welcoming to people, whether irrespective of who they are, where they're from, what their ability is, how they identify. When it comes to paid digital as well, it comes to our experiences in how we're designing that whole journey from that first touch point of when they see us and when they meet us, wherever that might be. How does that continue through that whole journey? So somebody might see us on a paid ad, which could be across a social site. It could be on a billboard. It could be on a bus. It could be through an email journey or a text message, or even just coming to our website organically. How does that all tie together, and how is it all inclusive, and making sure they have a consistent journey across all those different platforms?
Mm-hmm. How has that mindset influenced how your teams approach brand storytelling and campaign planning?
So basically, when it comes to storytelling and our brand planning, it's making sure that we're inclusive in all of our touch points and all of our creative. So making sure that when we're thinking about how we're going to communicate with our customers or how we're going to entice them into us, what are we really putting out there, and what are they actually seeing about them, about us, and what do we want them to actually see about our brand. So when we're thinking about storytelling, we're really thinking about how do we include people in our marketing. That's different from all different parts of the globe, different parts of media from where they would see us in those different touch points. In that storytelling, it's really making sure we're inclusive and we're including people that when they see our touch points, they feel like, oh, that's me, I'm represented, right. This brand gets me, or this is a brand that I can relate to.
It's making the brand feel real to them, right? Yeah. It's not just some fake ad or anything like that.
Making it feel real and making it feel like I see myself with that brand.
Right. Balancing creativity and data isn't always easy, especially when you're trying to build authentic connections that resonate globally. How do you and your team find that sweet spot between creative expression and data-driven insight?
This is a good one. This is one where the teams are always asking that question. Creative team meets the data team, and it's like, who's more important? Who has a more valuable say at the table? It's a dance that we're always dancing, and it's something that we've learned that we need to marry the two. Mm-hmm. So we have great insights from the data team that tells us about our audience, who they are, what they do, what they're interested in, what their pain points are. But we also have a lot of great insights from our creative, what works, what looks good, what resonates with the customers that we're talking to. So what we have to do is really marry the two. We use a lot of insights from all of our touch points to understand what customers are resonating with. That then goes back into our creative team to inform the creative. So it's no longer this us versus you on those two separate teams anymore. It's about how do we use both of our teams, our knowledge, our insights together, and how do we bring them together from the start. So with the creative team meeting the data team is, okay, I have this valuable piece of information. I also have this valuable piece of information. What do they mean to each other, and how do we make each other understand the different insights that we bring to the table? Because a lot of times the creative teams and the data teams don't always speak the same language. So it's about making them understand this insight is really relevant for creative, but then this insight is really relevant for data, but what's most relevant for the customer?
Right, and I think a lot of companies are starting to sort of change towards this pod model where you're bringing the teams together, because individually they may be powerful alone, but the reality is bringing them together allows you to sort of collaborate and even go faster and experiment and find solutions quicker.
Yeah, that's a great point. When it comes to experimenting, we're constantly A/B testing stuff. So we have an insight, we say, okay, let's test this out. Does this work? Because sometimes you'll get a data point, and data can mean so many different things to so many different people. It's how you interpret it. So I might have a different interpretation of a data point than you might do.
Right.
So let me test my theory. Does it work? Yes or no? If it does, let's carry on. Let's move this forward. Let's use that insight. If it doesn't work, that's fine. We didn't lose anything. We learned a valuable lesson, and we know not to do that again.
Right, that makes sense. And with the rise of AI and automation, how do you use these tools in a way that enhances inclusion rather than unintentionally automating bias?
Yeah, honestly, when it comes to paid media, we're always conscious of not using algorithmic biases. So there's a lot of things on algorithms that will point you in a certain direction, which kind of can take you off track. And everyone's been speaking a lot about AI today. It's something that we've actually been really enhancing this year in our creative strategy. We've been using a couple of different AI tools to actually test our creative before it even goes into market. So we're using AI tools that will actually look at the emotional resonance of a creative before it even goes out. And there's so many different data points that you can see from a piece of creative. By using this AI, it will tell you what kind of emotional response is this ad creating.
Right.
Whether that's positive or negative, it's telling us, is this ad inspiring somebody to be happy, joyful, making them be creative, or is it actually making them feel anxious and nervous and guilty? We got some really key insights this year that there's parts of our ads that we didn't even know were creating anxiety in people, and that's just because of the pacing of an ad. Something as a human we never would have thought about that. We're also using technology to look at cognitive load. How easy is it for somebody to digest the message that we're actually trying to tell them? Is there too much wording on this? Is it not accessible for people to actually understand the message?
Right.
And we're also using neuron technology to understand what are people looking at when they look at the ad? What are they actually digesting, and what are they taking in? So what's most important in that content, and where that most important piece of information should go in the content.
It's almost like designing for purpose of behavior, right?
Yeah.
You're putting that first. So let's talk about what this looks like in practice. What are some of the practical ways your team designs for inclusivity, from vision all the way through campaign delivery?
Yeah, so honestly, it starts right from the brief. So we embed a lot of inclusive terminology and goals within our briefs to make sure that we're designing right from the start and all of the teams are on the same page. Then it comes to the creative. The creative is then assessed, like I said, before it even goes into market. Is this a good piece of creative? What kind of message is it giving? Is it really going to resonate with people? Layering in insights that we've already gotten from past campaigns that we've ran, any insights that we've got from the data team. And then it goes into measurement once it's actually into the market. So we do a lot of studies when in market. We do A/B testing. We do like brand lift studies, creative lift studies. So there's a lot of information that we get.
Yeah.
And it goes back into a cycle. So then to the next campaign, again, starting with that brief, enhancing the brief from the start, making sure everybody is on the same page, making sure all those insights are in there. And again, creative team knows what they're doing, what they should be iterating, and again, just a cycle.
So I guess that kind of nicely dovetails into the next question, which is how do you maintain consistency in your brand message, especially while respecting the local nuances across different regions and cultures, since you guys are global?
Yeah, we are a global brand, and we have a lot of markets, and we have a lot of teams. The thing that we do to make sure that we have that kind of consistency across the markets is we have one global brand message, we have one identity as a global brand, but we then let our regional teams flex their creativity and actually localize that creative. So where we have insights that stem from maybe a global campaign, does that insight still resonate with the local market? Yes or no? Let's test that. And then also, how do we make sure that creative that's coming from global down to a regional level fits with that local market? There's so many different nuances in terms of language. So do we need to tweak the copy to make sure it's in a language that that market understands and resonates with? Do we need to tweak the characters or the people and the actors within that content as well? Does it look like the people that we're actually trying to reach in those markets?
Yeah.
And then making sure the platforms that we're using are those the platforms where people are actually digesting media in those markets. There's no point being in a place where those people that we're after aren't even there.
Right, right. That's great points, Sasha. So if we were to measure the impact of all the work, how do you do it? What metrics or signals tell you that your approach to inclusive design and marketing is truly working?
We have a lot. There's a bunch of stuff that we do in terms of measurement, like I mentioned. We do our brand lift studies and our creative lift studies. So that gives us a lot of data on, do people remember seeing our ads? Was there ad recall? Did they get the message from that ad? Did they have intent to actually purchase from that ad as well? We do quantitative and qualitative stuff. We have surveys that go out. We look at our NPS and eNPS as well. There's a bunch of things we do. We work with our vendors and our media partners quite closely to measure stuff as well.
Right.
There's a lot of testing that goes on behind the scenes. We're then obviously looking at all of our internal data, so our sales metrics and our first-party data, and making sure it all marries back up. Again, we have a lot of data points. We have a lot of stuff that we can look at. It's really about trying to actually pull an insight and actually make sure it makes sense.
Yeah.
And making sure it makes sense in that market.
That's great. It allows you to pivot quickly too if you're seeing something not negative or not so positive in the market.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So do you look at quantitative results like reach and conversion, or are there qualitative signals like sentiment or representation that matter just as much?
We do both. So depending on what the campaign style is and the part of the funnel that that campaign is for. So when we're looking at upper funnel stuff, we're looking at awareness and consideration. Do people know us? So are they recalling our brand? Did they know who we were before they even saw any of our ads? Further down we go into that funnel is really those sales metrics and conversion metrics. Are we actually getting people to convert? Are they clicking through? Is the journey that they're experiencing from our first interaction, whether that's an email message, whether that's a paid ad, going through to our website, are they actually making a conversion? And then we also have touch points in terms of our call centers as well. So you can call us. We have a lot of interaction with customers real time as well, so we get feedback from customers. If there's ever a pain point, you bet that they're going to tell us on the phone that, hey, this thing didn't work, or this interaction wasn't really that great. So we have a lot of information that we can leverage and actually kind of understand the customer.
That's awesome. We are actually at the end of our questionnaire, and since we have a lot of time, which is a first today for me, I want to throw a little bit of a wrench in there for you and just ask you a question on the fly if you're okay with it.
Yeah, let's
so
do
I mean,
it.
if you could give a piece of advice to everyone over here based on your expertise and your knowledge and your learnings, what would it be? It could be anything.
I think it's a really good question. I have spent a lot of time in the media world. I started my career in the agency side of stuff. I spent some time at TikTok, and now I'm at Intrepid Travel, so I've kind of seen that whole sphere of media and how it works. I think the one thing that's always rang true is creative, and creative is such a big thing now. When it comes to especially digital experience, creative is that one thing that has to be really good. It has to be really compelling for somebody to want to stop their scroll. Social media is so big now, and attention spans are so small. They're dwindling. You can have the most intelligent campaign with the most sophisticated targeting, with the most impactful measurement. But if you can't stop that scroll and nobody actually takes in your message, is pointless.
Point, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's powerful, actually. That's great. Sasha, thank you so much for being authentic and inspiring and having this conversation with me. What really stands out for me is how inclusion, when it's intentional, becomes a creative catalyst, not a constant. It pushes us to think differently about data, about storytelling, and about the responsibility we carry as digital leaders. If there's one takeaway for all of us, it's that inclusion by design isn't a checklist. It's a mindset. It's about designing for everyone from the very start, not as an afterthought, but as a foundation of great digital experience. Thank you again, Sasha, and for everyone that joined us on this particular forum. Now, I want to pass it and open it up to questions since we have time. Does anyone have any time for, any questions for Sasha?
I think the first question is, when does the bar open?
Hi. I have a question about your comments related to using AI to evaluate your creative. If you had to quantify the amount of time it probably saved you in doing iterations of your creative, A/B testing, et cetera, did it shorten that cycle for you, like substantially or by some number of, percentage or whatever?
Yeah, we haven't actually done the quantitative timing of it, but I would say from my personal experience, it saved me a lot of time. So we would do a lot of feedback rounds when it comes to getting creative concepts. We would do at least a minimum of 3 rounds of creative concept feedback. So that means the creative team would come up with a concept, it would come to our team, we would look at it, we would try and think from a customer point of view, does this look good, is it on brand, is this going to resonate? We would then give feedback to the creative team, they would go away, they would do some updates, and that would happen 3 times. That would probably take us over a month, whereas now we can put it into a piece of AI and it comes back within seconds to say, this is good, this is bad, this is maybe a watch point, these are the emotions that are being triggered here, this is where the attention is being focused on, which gives us so much more time to then actually use those learnings to actually change the concept without it just being, I think, you think, we think. Yeah. It's something that we can actually measure. We haven't actually done the actual quantitative into how long, but I would say a ton of time.
Hi there. Question around when you talked about the localized creative, which is great, obviously, to be able to do that. Were you referring to that on your website and an app? And if so, how do you go about presenting that different type of content based off of region?
Yeah, so we do it in multiple ways. So we do have versions of our website that are localized. So in Canada, you would be on the .ca website, whereas in Australia, you would be on .au. So the copy on those websites are different and they're localized in terms of the local terminology people use in those regions. The creative is tweaked as well to make sure it's reflective of that audience in that market. And then in our media, again, it's the same thing. We drive to the different versions of the website, so we're making sure that the creative that we're sending to that website is localized and fit for that website.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions? See one down.
I've got a question here. Thanks. You were talking about AI tools to help with checking emotional responses and cognitive load. Are you able to share what some of those tools are? And then my second question is, are you using any AI tools to help generate the creative itself?
I'm not able to share the actual names of the tools, but you could probably do a couple of Google searches and find some. In terms of the creative, we're using AI to help us build templates for the creative, but we're not actually using AI to build creative. It's one thing as a brand that we don't want to go too deep down that road because there's a lot of funny creative out there that's made by AI where it just doesn't look right and it's a bit of a brand risk. Some of the platforms that we advertise on, they have a lot of AI functionality when it comes to creative as well. At the moment, we are opting out of those because, again, a lot of funky stuff, this stuff that just doesn't look right, stuff that kind of like there's not enough fingers on the hands, or A great example was there was a piece of creative that we had, which was a family in front of the Colosseum. You put it into one of these platforms, they focus on the family and they get rid of the Colosseum. That's the one thing we're trying to sell, a trip to Italy. What happened to the Colosseum? So right now, we're not using AI creative, but we're using tools to help us get there.
Funny. Any other questions? Oh, I see one, Sagar.
What are the questions to be asking the creators? I think it really comes down to what you're trying to achieve. So when you're asking the questions, is what's the actual outcome? What are you trying to achieve? So oftentimes we get a lot of questions from like our product team or our data team or our customer team on why are we using this piece of creative? Why does it look like this? Why this messaging? There's a lot of why questions that come to us, which we can easily answer. We can say, hey, there's this piece of data that we have, or there's an insight that we have. So I don't think it's about what's the right question. I think it's what you're trying to achieve from asking that question. Sometimes we get a lot of questions that take up a lot of time. We'll get requests to say, okay, can you pull me this really long report, put it into a really long slide deck, and it goes nowhere. So the first thing my team will ask is, sure, we can give you that piece of information. What are you going to do with it? And is there an easier way for me to give you that information without having to do this big, massive presentation and this deep dive in data? Is there a quick point that I could just tell you? And what are you doing with it?
Yeah, I think what might be helpful also is like, sometimes I find when you go and reach out to marketing and get their feedback, and then you go to the development team and get their feedback, you're getting the feedback, but it's disconnected and disjointed. So what's worked for me in the past is to have like those customer journey mapping sessions where you bring, a couple of folks from the business on whatever product it is that you're working on. You bring in your developers, you bring in your marketing, and you have a bit of a cross-pollination in terms of the types of questions. It sort of jolts that creative side of things, and then you'll be surprised at what you can get out of those sessions in terms of, are you even building for the right purpose? Maybe the purpose has changed now. Maybe there's value someplace else. Any other questions? Oh, we were on a roll, come on. One more. Anyone brave enough? You guys really want that drink, huh? All right. Well, thank you, Sasha. It's been a pleasure. I enjoyed our conversation. Let's give her a round of applause.
Thanks for having me.